Hey everybody, Nerdcore here,
Over the boy.
and welcome back to Comic-Booksters. As of right now, Guardians of the Galaxy has been out, well, of this recording, about a week, but by the time this goes up, a couple weeks. So we've already done our initial reactions, and here we're coming at you with our spoiler-filled show. So if you haven't seen the movie, go do it right now. Seriously, what is wrong with you? We'll wait. Go do it. Pause the video. We'll be right back. We're going to strike a pose right now, so it looks like we're just waiting on you. Do it. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. So hopefully you went and saw the movie, because now there's no excuse for all the spoilers that we may go over here. So let's talk a little bit in depth about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We already did our initial reactions, but now we've seen it twice. Obi, what do you got?
I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as the first one.
See, it was really hard for me for a couple days because I couldn't really decide which one I liked better, 1 or 2. And I think Volume 2 for me is just a slight bit better. Now, here's a question that I was pondering. What did you think of the soundtrack for this one compared to Volume 1?
I personally still like Volume 1 soundtrack better.
And I think that I actually like the soundtrack for this one a little bit more than Volume 1's. And I think that's almost, what the formula with this movie is going to be, is you're going to like it based on what you think of the soundtrack.
And that's not true, because most of the stuff that's on this soundtrack is stuff that I listen to every day. That's like my everyday repertoire of music I listen to.
But you still think that the soundtrack for this movie is not as good as Volume 1.
Yeah, because it doesn't. Some of the stuff doesn't mesh with where they were trying to do, I think.
Honestly, I think this movie focused a lot more on the soundtrack actually tying into the story itself than Volume 1 actually did.
Yeah, like they did try to tie the story into the movie with Brandy, but I think some of the songs in other areas missed. Like the Fleetwood Mac, when he decides to beat the crap out of Ego, they could have picked 1,000 other songs.
I don't know that when you get into the drum beat and the bass for that song, and as it builds, I mean, it is very dramatic. I felt like that really worked towards it, for me at least.
Yeah, for me it didn't work at all.
But since we're already talking about soundtrack, and this video could fall into the danger of us discussing the soundtrack a little too much, but with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, it is a very key element. I mean, what was your absolute favorite scene of the movie? Did it have anything like keyed into the soundtrack with that, as far as popular music choices?
Oh yeah. Dude, my favorite scene in the movie is the rocket scene where he takes out all those Ravengers by himself. It's hilarious.
To the tune of Glenn Campbell's Southern Nights.
Yeah.
That is a pretty hilarious moment. I refer to it as his Vietnam War moment, just because he's hiding in the trees and he's there with the voice box, throwing his voice into the ship so everyone thinks he's in there, and he's just coming at him with stealth attacks. It's amazing stuff. But my personal favorite was the escape from the Ravager ship with Yondu and Baby Groot and Rocket to Jay and the Americans come a little bit closer. That is my absolute favorite scene. It's just, one, I love that song, and 2, it really sets Yondu up, who, in my opinion, is actually the hero of this movie.
Oh, he is the hero of this movie.
He's absolutely, even more so than, the story focuses very much on Peter Quill, as the first one did, and you also get healthy doses of, and subplots with Gamora and Nebula, which is great. Drax, Mantis, of course, Rocket and Baby Groot. It's all about family, and as is Hollywood's way, a lot of this does come back on the white male lead, which is Star-Lord. But I think even more so, like, Yondu is the main protagonist of this movie. He's the one who undergoes the most growth, and that scene with him and Rocket escaping from the ship to that wonderful tune while he's whistling with the arrow flying around everywhere. It's pretty great stuff, and real props to Michael Rooker for his performance in this movie. He was by far my favorite part of it.
I don't know if there was that much growth. I think by the end of Volume 1, you kind of knew this was the direction they were going to go with Yondu, especially when he opens up the ball at the end of Volume 1 and it has the little troll doll in it and he just smiles.
Honestly, at the end of Volume 1, I wasn't sure if we would see Yondu again for the next movie. I thought maybe he would be held off until maybe Volume 3 or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you knew that was the direction they were going with it, that he was going to end up being the helper of Star-Lord somewhere down the road.
I could see him being set up as an ally there, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that Yondu would have this big moment where, you really discover the father-son connection. Not that he's Peter Quill's biological father or anything. That, of course, is Ego the Living Planet, played by Kurt Russell, astoundingly. But, the fact that he is the man who practically raised Peter Quill, he was the father figure that he had once he left Earth, no matter what they told each other as far as him being scrawny and good for thieving. But
and wanting to eat him.
Exactly, which was just for fun. But yeah, I think that it was really a surprise to me that Yondu played as big of a role as he did. I kind of expected him to fall into a supporting character role, but he really his effect on Peter is really displayed, as well as his kind of kinship with Rocket.
Yeah, because they kind of fell into the same role of just being tortured so young at life that they grew up trying to protect themselves from everyone around them.
So, our producer, Double Mac, he has kind of a controversial opinion related to Guardians of the Galaxy. He does not like Baby Groot.
That seems impossible.
That does? Because I was gonna see where you were in that camp, because we never really discussed it.
That seems impossible. How do you not like Baby Groot? That whole dance scene in the beginning of the movie, it's like one of the best scenes in the movie. And then when he's going from Guardian to Guardian to Guardian, and then he finally falls asleep on Drax at the end, like, come on.
That's true. And this is it for him too, as far as you can tell. This is the one and only Baby Groot movie, which is fine by me, because I really don't want to have him hit what's been termed as Minion Syndrome.
Yeah, but he's adorable, and he does still have that Groot rage that he had when he was Big Groot.
Oh, for sure.
So there's no... I don't... To not like Baby Groot, that's weird.
But we're not going to hold that against Double Mac. He's a great guy. And, we're all welcome to hold our own opinions on these things. But speaking of Groot, for spoilers for the post-credit sequence, what did you happen to think of adolescent Groot?
He's just a regular old teenager. I thought that was funny. I really liked the comment, like, now I knew how Yondu felt. That was funny. Yeah,
right? I've noticed online... in the past couple days, just reading about the reaction to the movie, a lot of people seem to take issue and feel like Gamora was sidelined. And
she doesn't show up that much comparatively to the first one in this movie.
I feel like she has a stronger plot line, though. Like, though it may be less screen time, I really feel like she, her plot line, her story throughout this is stronger.
Yeah, no, there is a much better story told, but it's just told in a shorter period of time. And I think they'd want Hollywood's moving into a more diverse area, and people are concerned with when you see a diverse character like that get pulled off the screen.
That's true, but I think the story had the time that it needed. I'm not really sure what else they could do with it, and I feel like it was a more interesting story than what she had before. This being her reconnecting with Nebula and the building of their sisterhood. What I didn't like with Gamora, and this just might be me, is I don't ship Star-Lord and Gamora. I really don't. I mean, it just feels like, Hollywood crap where they're, just taking the two best-looking people in their cast and just forcing them together. I frankly can't get behind it. It doesn't interest me. I don't really like it. I mean, sure, your movie needs to have your tender moments, I guess. But, not every... she's the sole female member of the Guardians cast outside of Nebula, but she's like a proper teammate. Like, there's no reason to shoehorn her and Star-Lord together romantically. It just doesn't feel right to me.
Well, they haven't really shoehorned them together. They do the Cheers thing, like they bring up in the movie. They just kind of... They do it passively, like the passive love thing.
But the passive love thing is scripted. Like, it's there, it's scripted. I felt like Volume 1 as we're going to call it, I guess now in retrospect, instead of just Guardians of the Galaxy. But Volume 1 really, I kind of liked it how it was left. It was left with them coming together as a family, as friends. There was no romantic entanglement there. You know, Star-Lord tried to make his move, and he was rebuffed just harshly. I really liked that. But, you know, I'm not feeling it. I just don't ship the two of them together, unfortunately. Now I'm using the term ship way too much.
You are using the term ship way too much.
And now...
I can see what you're saying, but there is a certain group of people that it's going to appeal to have that little relationship thing in there. You can, even by the end of the movie, it's not like they've ever kissed. The best they did was do an arm hug.
That's true. That is true.
There is a little bit of a romantic thing there, but it's not really. They're just trying to figure out what they are. Yeah. You might not see it in Volume 3. You might not.
Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but Volume 2 takes place in 2014, which is just a couple months after Volume 1. Mm-hmm. As noted by, we open in Missouri in 1980, and then we hop forward to the Guardians in space 34 years later. Mm-hmm. I think the next time we're going to see the Guardians is Infinity War, which I think is next year at this point.
I think so.
You know, that's 3 years' time. Where do you think we're going to be when we rejoin the Guardians of the Galaxy come Infinity War?
I'm not sure where they're going to be.
Based on this movie and the developments that came out of it alone, spoiler alert, we've already been over it, Yondu's dead. In the arms of the angel. Yeah. He went out saving Peter Quill. Ego's dead. But based on what's happened in this movie, you know, just some speculation. Where do we pick up with Star-Lord? Where do we pick up with Gamora and Drax?
We pick up with them all as a team. You're going to pick up with them as a team, but I don't know where you're going to pick up with them at. Because whatever that, I can't remember the name of that golden race, they're not going to...
The Sovereign?
The Sovereign.
Yeah.
They're going to be hunting them down. Period. End of story. It's 3 years later. They're still going to be they're going to be doing something in the background. It's going to pop up. So I'm not sure where they're going to be. I want to say you're going to probably see him working with, if anything, you're going to see him working with the Ravengers.
Yeah, you think so? Speaking of the Ravengers, we have the original Guardians of the Galaxy, or at least most of them. Starhawk, Alita, Martinex, I think it's Kurgan and Mainframe and Charlie 27, all put together. The only real notable people missing are Vance Astro and Nikki, but you know, they're not so much heroic like they are in the original comics. They're put together as a band of thieves like the Ravagers. Rumors are circulating that they're going to be the focus of Volume 4. Let's face it, Sylvester Stallone, who plays Starhawk at this point, is like 70 years old.
Volume 4?
Yeah.
They announced that they're going to do... I thought there was
James Gunn mentioned it in passing. I
thought he said he was doing a 3-movie trilogy and then calling it a day on
He said he was doing a 3... Recently, he reportedly said that it was going to be a 3-movie trilogy with this team, and Volume 4, if he would do it, he would like to focus on the original Guardians team.
Oh, well, okay.
I don't remember where I read that, but I distinctly remember reading it.
I can get behind that, if that's the direction I wanted to go. I think a trilogy is going to be fine. I don't want them to get into... I want to call it Iron Man disease, where Iron Man is everywhere in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's actually getting annoying now.
I don't need him in Spider-Man Homecoming, I'll tell you that much.
No, I think you do need him in Spider-Man Homecoming. I think you do need him to be that person to push Peter in the right direction in coming into the Marvel Cinematic, because, you know, they're bringing him over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think he's the one guy that can... He's old enough and made enough mistakes to push Spider-Man into being like, hey, you're doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. I'm trying to get you on the correct path where you're not messing up stupid stuff. You know what I mean? I don't think the only other guy I can think of they don't own the rights to do. So
who's the other one?
I would say you really could think of two of them, but I would go with Reed. Reed can push them in the right direction. That would be my number one.
Yeah.
So,
well, I see what they're doing with Spider-Man: Homecoming, and we're kind of off topic now, but since we're on this thread, and we will be doing an episode on Spider-Man: Homecoming when the time comes. But what they're doing with Spider-Man: Homecoming is, they're making his original suit, the classic red and blue suit. It's more or less the Iron Spider from Civil War. Not in design, it's the original suit, but the concept's the same, and he's using it because he was assisting Tony Stark during Civil War. But anyway, yeah, long story short, not really. I don't really need Iron Man to be in Spider-Man. I saw him in a lot of the trailer, and no offense to Robert Downey Jr., his performance when this first started up, I loved it. But I'm starting to get tired of the entire spiel with Iron Man. But, come Spider-Man: Homecoming, I may be singing a completely different tune. He's a great actor. He may win me over with this. So,
right,
anyway,
back to Guardians, which we were supposed to talk about.
Absolutely. So, I guess we've covered positives, the soundtrack, the majority of the story. Kurt Russell's ego. What did you think of that? He was kind of a weird mix of Ego the Living Planet, and Jason and Spartax, who was Star-Lord's father in the comics. He definitely has the arrogance.
Yeah, I thought he put on a good performance. I thought that was a good way to go about doing his father, like giving him the reason he was able to hold the Infinity Stone by himself.
Right.
So I think that was a good way to go. I think his performance was one of the best ones in the movie.
No, yeah. He's Kurt Russell. How could he not be?
I mean, I wouldn't expect less, but how about Taserface?
That's a horrible name.
Dude, it's a horrible name. And how about how bad of a Klingon ripoff he is?
Well, I mean, in the comics, he's a member of the Stark, a technological future alien race uses Iron Man technology.
Nice.
But I think James Gunn just picked that name out of a hat of ridiculous Marvel names to throw on whatever villain that he could for comic effect, and it works.
Oh, it does. It throws me off by how very Klingon-y it is.
Oh, for sure.
But Taserface, such a terrible name. How about the Baby Groot sequence when he goes to get the Yondu, whatever you want to call it, mohawk?
And he gives him the Ravager pin to say that the symbol is on the drawer, and he puts it on his head, and he thinks you want to wear it as a hat.
And he hates hats.
He hates hats. He's relieved. Absolutely hilarious stuff. I mean, the movie's gold in my opinion. I would put it up there as, I can't say that I put it up there past Captain America, Winter Soldier, but it's on equal footing for me.
It's the top 5 if you're just looking at Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. It's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah. What didn't you like? We've covered the positive, fairly substantially. I think we've glowed and glowed and glowed about it. You didn't like Mantis?
I didn't. Not that I didn't like her portrayal of Mantis, and I thought she did a very fantastic job playing out the part. I just didn't think. I guess they, and I even did read this on someone else actually said this too. I don't remember where it was, but they just use her as like a plot point to switch over. She was raised by this dude. What magically made these guys be the ones that...
Well, she feels Drax's pain, and that causes her to emphasize with the situation because she is an empath.
Yeah.
I had a problem earlier, the first time that I saw this, where Peter sees Ego's vision, and I felt like he was too easily swayed. But, I was talked down from that, too, by the fact that, his mother... And the idea of that snapped him out of it because it was his core that brought him through. But
Yeah, he was too easily swayed at the same
Yeah.
time. No, he was easily swayed by just using Brandy, the same song that starts the movie. The ego uses that to grab his attention, and just he already has him in his trance before he even realizes it.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't a fan of Pac-Man.
That was hilarious.
I don't know. I thought like it was just a little too heavy-handed on the references. Like I enjoy the whole when he realizes that he can build stuff with like going, I'm gonna make Pac-Man and Heather Locklear and Skeletor and I'm gonna make some weird stuff and like that I thought was funny and that's mostly down to Chris Pratt's comedic timing. But when he actually made Pac-Man to go into battle with Ego, I don't know. I thought that was kind of lame.
I didn't think it was lame. I thought that was a cool part of the movie myself.
Right.
How about the arcade sounds for the pilot ship? The pilots.
I found that to be funny.
I did not. I found that super annoying. Like, why is it an arcade sounds? It's like
Well, because that's basically what they were doing. They were in a giant arcade. That was how they control their armada.
That's really stupid. I really didn't like that.
So, I think we're both saying that everyone should go see Guardians.
Oh yeah, you definitely should see it.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We actually, remember, at the beginning, at the top of this, we stopped and gave you the chance to pause this video and go see it and come back. And you didn't.
Yeah.
This is it. This is our final word. Go see this movie. It's awesome. Especially if you like the first one. You'll like this one. Yeah,
I can say this was, watching it the second time, it was much quieter than the first time I watched it. Because I went to the opening last week with the shop, and it was basically just full of people that go to the local comic shop where I was at, and everyone was laughing. There was no, because everyone knew, like, every joke landed for every single thing, and it seemed like certain jokes landed in a more broad crowd of not just comic geeks going to see a movie. Certain jokes landed with the broader crowd that didn't land, that like were easier to land for a whole group of people than with your people, like just a bunch of guys who read comic books, I guess.
Yeah, I'll back that up. When I went on the opening night, it had a lot louder of a reception than this time around when we went and saw it. But I mean, still glorious. And I feel like, opening night, that is mostly the comic fans that come out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so yeah, go see Guardians of the Galaxy. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Comic-Booksters. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and be sure to check us out on OutrightGeekery.com. Once again, I'm Nerdcore.
I'm Obi.
And we're signing off. Keep reading and go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I said go see the movie!